Previously, after being reincarnated into a fantasy world as the Crown Prince, Haruto finds himself thrown away like trash for possessing a low magic level. Unknown to anyone, his magic is just too powerful to be measured by this world's sensors. Luckily, Haruto is taken in by a relative named Gold. Over the years, Haruto grows into a fine young man, though his relationship is strained with his adoptive sister Charlotte. That all changes when he saves her and their mom from some criminals. Haruto is sitting peacefully in his room, watching some of his surveillance feeds, when Char suddenly bursts in. Rushing over to him, she grabs onto her older brother in a hug. While patting her head, Haruto thinks about this new dynamic the two of them have. Ever since Char found out about his true abilities, at least to some extent, she's gotten weirdly attached to him, so much so that he actually doesn't know what to do now. In that way, things haven't changed much at all. That aside though, he can't say he minds it. After all, her constant affection is actually kind of comforting. Meanwhile, Char has gotten a look at the surveillance feeds Haruto was watching and asks her brother what they are. Since he's being honest with her now, he tells her that it's surveillance magic. He also tells her it's ancient magic when she asks if that's what it is. Okay, maybe not completely honest. Char is just amazed at her brother's abilities and praises him. Of course, this reminds Haruto that he's told their father he's studying ancient magic too. In an attempt to cover his tracks, he tells Char that there actually aren't any records on ancient magic since it's a lost art. Char surprises him though and tells him there are, down in their own castle's archives even. With a smile firmly in place at the idea of helping her brother, Char tells him she'll lead in there. Sometime later, the siblings are in the archives. Seeing them for the first time, Haruto is taken aback by the sheer size and vastness of the massive library-like room. While he's marveling at the place, Char scurries off to gather a pile of books she knows are on the topic of ancient magic. After grabbing a couple of chairs at an empty table, the pair get to studying the books. Haruto finds that ancient magic has no elemental attribute and had those added later on to become modern magic. This means Haruto's signature barrier magic actually can be classified as a form of ancient magic. Perhaps even more surprising than that, though, is the realization that Char has read these complicated books at her young age. She explains that Flay or their father read them to her so they can explain any words she doesn't know or understand. With that, she asks Haruto to play that role today and hops into his lap. As he reads, Haruto finds himself amazed by the stories in the books, from gods who can travel between worlds to straight-up N-like stuff. Thinking of the latter reminds him of lazing away as an otaku back in Japan. When he mentions anime out loud, Char becomes interested and insists on knowing what that is. A few minutes later, Haruto is completing an in-depth explanation of how animation works, only to see Char with a blank expression on her face. Seeing this, Haruto's worried that she's going to act grossed out or something. It turns out though that she was just in a state of awe at what she perceives as an amazing new form of magic. Haruto asks if she'd like to see some, to which she just replies that if it makes him happy then it makes her happy too. Faced with something as adorable as that, Haruto can only thank their mother for raising Char so well. Over the next 2 weeks, Haruto works out a way to access the internet, all the way in Japan on a holographic screen. Even better, he can log into all his streaming services on here, so he can watch pretty much anything. With the screen prepared, he gets Char to pick out an anime she finds interesting. At her choice, he plays a magical girl anime that leaves Char absolutely starstruck. One problem though, she has no clue what they're saying in the anime. Haruto realizes that he's made an oversight in that the anime are obviously all in Japanese, a language nobody knows in this world. After debating over it a bit, Haruto decides to teach the language to Char since she'll be able to absorb it better, being a kid and all. What he's not prepared for, however, is just how freakishly fast Char is able to learn things. In just 2 hours, she's already managed to master both hiragana and katakana, writing formats in the Japanese language. Another 2 weeks later, the girl has grown into a full-blown closet of otaku, rushing to her brother's room in her free time to watch her favorite anime, a show about heroes of justice who protect a post-apocalyptic world's humanity from zombies. While she watches the anime, Haruto reflects on her progress in learning Japanese. In just 2 weeks from watching an anime alone, the little girl has completely mastered the language to a high degree. With that in mind, knowing that she's a genius, Haruto wonders if he's enabling her to waste her potential by only showing her anime. Seeing how happy she looks, Haruto is hesitant to do so, but decides to buckle down and be a little strict. After the episode ends, he tells Char that from now on, she'll be limited to 3 hours of watch time per day. At her horrified questioning, he tells her that it's simply not good for one's health to watch too much. That night at dinner, Char keeps dozing off, clearly exhausted from something. Curious, their parents ask Haruto if he knows what's going on. Last their father checked, the two of them were spending a lot of time together in Haruto's room. Does this have something to do with that? Quickly, Char jolts up and jumps into the conversation to cover herself. She tells their father that they've been researching ancient magic a lot. Their mom is happy to hear how much better they're getting along compared to before and tells Haruto to just be mindful of managing her time properly. Later, Haruto is walking through the halls only to find Char constantly following it. Without missing a beat, he tells her she can't watch anime no matter how much she sticks to him. He tells her to just go take a bath and go to bed for the night before heading off to do the same himself. Over in the bath, Haruto is surprised and a little confused to find Char entering as well. Sitting down with a dejected expression, she tells him she's only following his instructions. If she can't watch anime, then she'll just sleep until she can. Hearing that only confirms to Haruto that she's truly become a full-blown otaku. While they're still in the bath, Char points out the royal emblem Haruto's had on his chest since birth and asks what it is. Before Haruto even has to come up with some elaborate cover for it, Char answers herself and says that it's an emblem of justice since he's a hero. After the bath, the siblings head off to bed together, much to Haruto's confusion. Peeking in from his room's door, their mother is watching the whole thing with a smile on her face, elated at how close the two have grown compared to before. Not that she isn't playing a significant role in causing that herself. The next morning, Gold and his men head out to take care of the thieves in the area that have been reported most recently. Over in Haruto's room, Char finds herself worried for their father, despite Haruto's assurance that their dad's more than strong enough to deal with some thieves. After that, he and Char have a conversation about criminals, and why there can't just be peace for everyone. Haruto admits that it would be nice, but it's far from an easy thing to make happen. Char, however, latches on to the first part of his statement and asks if he can go fight those thieves himself if he agrees with her. She gets pretty fired up and tells Haruto that she believes his powers should be used for justice. Though he's exteriorly hesitant, Haruto doesn't really know how to say no to his sister when she's this excited about something. He gives in to her request, after which he even has to put on an embarrassing show where he transforms himself into an anime-like disguise for Char. Before heading out, he allows Char to watch him on his surveillance feeds, since she's sad about not being able to come with him. At the sight of the thieves' hiding spot, Haruto floats above the trees and laments over all the recent developments in his life. With just a thought, he puts up a barrier around the thieves to trap them in place. Normally he'd just leave it at that and let his dad capture them, but Char wants a show. And so he leaps into action and uses his physical strength to overpower and beat the crap out of the thieves. Once he's done, Gold and his men arrive, and the man looks at Haruto's disguise with interest. But on the spot, Haruto chokes and introduces himself as Tanoe. He confirms that he was the one to save Gold's wife and daughter not long before now. When asked what his goal is, he puts on a terribly embarrassing show about being a hero of justice. Over the following days, Haruto is forced into several more situations like today's to Char's wish for him to be a hero. Because of this, Haruto's hero disguise ends up gaining quite the reputation, becoming known as the Black Knight. Though he's depressed at how ridiculous it all is, Haruto can't deny he's happy to see his sister happy. One morning, Haruto makes a breakthrough with his robot copy and finally gets it to speak and have a personality after tons of mind-melting research. Char, who's just emerged from his bed cover, expresses shock and confusion at the sight of two Harutos and questions which one is hers. Later, the whole family is gathered outside their castle to greet the High Prince and Princess, Laius and Marian, who are here to visit. Seeing them, Haruto thinks about how these two are his real siblings by blood. While Marian is pleasant enough, Laius quickly proves to be an extremely difficult individual, with an ego the size of the castle itself and an inflated sense of self-importance. He forces Gold into apologizing to him for something stupidly trivial. After that, he talks down to his sister when she tries to scold him before going on to butt heads with Haruto, just because he looked at him wrong. He talks down to Haruto for being level 2 trash, and challenges him to a duel to teach him some manners. Later, with Gold refereeing and Marian watching, their match begins with each holding a wooden sword. Haruto quickly scans him to see the boy is level 9 and will max out at 40. Curious, he looks over to scan the other two as well, causing Laius to go for a surprise attack. Without any effort, Haruto dodges, leaving Laius frustrated. Seeing that he's going to throw a fit, Haruto puts up a reinforcement barrier on himself and allows Laius to think he's beating him. However, when the smug prince mockingly tells him to fight back, Haruto takes it seriously and smacks the crap out of him, and then does it again, and then again. While Marianne questions his abilities as a level 2 from the sidelines, Gold just tells her he's come to accept it as something he can't really explain. Back with the boys, Laius rises from the ground to suddenly shoot a fireball spell at Haruto, a lethal spell that's well outside the bounds of a friendly match like this. Of course, Haruto easily stops the spell with a barrier, but Laius just keeps going. Even as his sister yells at him to stop, he keeps shooting fireball after fireball, only for Haruto's barrier to stop them all. At his confusion, Haruto tells him that's his magic, but Laius further questions how a level 2 could do something like that. In response, Haruto asks him if he'd like to have all his fireballs returned to him, and summons them out of the barrier which absorbed them. Terrified, the prince drops to his knees, defeated in every way. Before he leaves, Marianne apologizes to Haruto for her brother, though Haruto feels bad since she hasn't done anything. He accepts her apology and heads inside, only stopping to confirm once more that he is, in fact, level 2. Later that night, while walking through the castle halls, Haruto worries that his real parents might start looking for him. He reminds himself, though, that they're the type that threw him away just for being a low level. There's no way they'd look for him now. The end, for now.
Thanks for watching. If you like this recap, please consider to like and subscribe to the channel and ring the notification bell to be notified of any new recap. And while you're at it, check out this new recap appearing on the screen.